If this touched your soul, don't scroll, like, comment your favorite quote, and subscribe for more. Love's fading echo still haunts the corners you refuse to face. You ignored the warning signs, and the pain became your shadow. Everyone saw the distance growing. You only saw your reflection. You shut down when love begged for your attention most. The universe's wisdom was loudest when you chose to be silent. Your heart's quiet fracture shattered worlds no one could repair. You pretended the pain wasn't real, but it carved your soul. Everyone noticed the cracks. You chose to dance on broken dreams. Love slipped away silently while you chased illusions in the dark. You ignored what was true, leaving your heart lost and empty. The silence was your choice, but love never stopped calling. You closed your eyes to truth, and darkness became your refuge. Everyone felt the cold distance you wrapped around your fading heart. You ignored the pain until it became the only language left. Love was a wisp in a storm you refused to hear. You turned away from what was breaking, fearing the inevitable truth. The universe tried to guide you, but you walked the path of silence. Your heart's silent scream echoed where love once lived fully. You ignored what everyone else noticed. Now your soul pays the price. Love was there, quietly fading. You chose to look away. You left love waiting in the shadows while you chased empty dreams. Everyone saw your heart cracking. You just pretended it was fine. The silence you chose became a chasm no one could cross. You ignored love's gentle warnings until they became unbearable storms. Your soul whispered truths you refused to hear aloud. Love faded slowly, drowned beneath the weight of your denial. Everyone noticed your retreat. You called it survival. You shut love out like it was a ghost haunting your peace. The universe sent signs. You turned your face away in defiance. You ignored the quiet heartbreak until it shattered your soul's calm. Love's delicate flame flickered beneath your cold indifference. Everyone saw the unraveling thread. You pretended it was strength. You chose silence, but your eyes screamed the truth loudly. The distance grew because you refused to fight what was breaking. Your heart's silent rebellion carved wounds no apology could heal. You ignored love's last breath, and now the silence is deafening. Everyone felt the fading warmth, but you blamed the winter. You walked away from what screamed your name in desperation. Love was a soft light you extinguished with stubbornness. The universe's warnings became whispers lost in your deafness. You ignored what everyone else saw, and your soul paid the price. Your silence was the loudest scream of a heart breaking inside. Love tried to save you. You pushed it away like a stranger. Everyone noticed your cracks, but you hid behind a fragile mask. You shut the door to healing, leaving love's wounds open and raw. The universe whispered gently. You answered with a cold retreat. You ignored love's call until it became a memory fading fast. Everyone felt the cold distance growing between your heart and mine. You chose darkness over the uncomfortable light of truth and healing. Love's final whisper was drowned in the silence you created. Your heart broke quietly while you pretended to be unbreakable. The universe watched as you ignored what was painfully obvious. You walked away from love's fragile thread and lost yourself. Everyone saw the fractures. You called them scars of strength. You refused to see love's slow fading until it disappeared completely. Your silence was a wall no love could ever climb. Love tried to speak, but you refused to listen to its language. Everyone felt the distance. You wrapped yourself in cold denial. You ignored the fading light and lost your way in darkness. The universe tried to guide you, but you chose your own silence. Your heart's quiet breaking became a story no one could tell. You pretended not to see love slipping through your trembling fingers. Love was screaming inside you. You answered with empty silence. Everyone noticed your fading soul. You hid behind broken dreams. You chose blindness while the universe begged you to open your eyes. The silence you crafted was a coffin for what could have been love. You ignored what everyone else noticed. Now your soul pays the price. Love was there, quietly fading. You chose to look away. You left love waiting in the shadows while you chased empty dreams. Everyone saw your heart cracking. You just pretended it was fine. The silence you chose became a chasm no one could cross. You ignored love's gentle warnings until they became unbearable storms. Your soul whispered truths you refused to hear aloud. Love faded slowly, drowned beneath the weight of your denial. Everyone noticed your retreat. You called it survival. You shut love out like it was a ghost haunting your peace. My dear, I am really shocked. You ignored what everyone else quietly screamed about you. You looked away when the truth burned brighter than your pride. Silence grew where your heart refused to listen. You chose blindness over the love everyone else could see. They whispered warnings you pretended never to hear. Love was waving frantically. Yet you turned your back on its light. You ignored the signs as if your heart's compass was broken. The world saw your shadow. You only saw the sun. You refused to feel what your soul knew too well. Everyone noticed your fading warmth, except you, lost in denial. Love's soft cries were drowned by your deaf silence. The truth hurt, but your silence was a deeper wound. You closed your eyes while the universe begged you to see. They watched your love bleed quietly while you chose to pretend it didn't hurt. Everyone felt the distance growing, but you blamed the stars. You ignored the breaking mirrors reflecting your fading soul. Your heart's faint cries were swallowed by your stubborn silence. Love was calling loud and clear, but you whispered excuses. They noticed the cracks you carefully painted over with lies. You pretended the storm wasn't coming while we saw it approaching. You chose ignorance over healing, leaving love's wound raw. The silence between us screamed louder than any fight. Everyone saw the fracture, but you only saw a mask. You ignored what was breaking because it scared you to feel. The eyes around you saw truth. You only saw denial. Your heart shut the door just when love tried to enter. You walked away from what was painfully obvious to all. The universe tried to warn you, but you turned down its volume. Love's light dimmed quietly because you refused to protect it. Everyone heard the cracks in your love story, except you. You turned your back on the mirror, refusing to face the truth. You ignored the gentle alarms love was sounding inside you. They saw your heart slipping. You pretended it was still whole. The silence you chose spoke louder than any words ever could. Love was bleeding, and you closed your eyes to the crimson truth. Everyone noticed your fading love, but you buried it deep in shadows. You chose denial over the uncomfortable healing love demanded. The world knew your pain before you even whispered it. You ignored the signs of love's death, hoping for a resurrection. Love's final breath was unheard because you stopped listening. The universe watched as you ignored what everyone else saw clearly. You turned your heart into a locked vault, hiding from the truth. Everyone felt the coldness growing, but you blamed the seasons. You were blind to what was breaking because you feared the fix. The silence you chose was a wall no love could climb. Everyone saw the cracks. You pretended it was an unbreakable illusion. You ignored the fading warmth like it was just a passing chill. Love's warnings were signs. You called them noise. You chose to ignore the truth, and it swallowed us whole. The universe cried out, but you muted its voice with doubt. Everyone noticed your heart's slow death. You called it strength. You closed your ears when love screamed for attention. You ignored the fading light and lost the chance to fight. Love's soft whispers were drowned by your willful deafness. The cracks were obvious. You chose to walk on broken glass. You pretended the pain wasn't real, but your silence screamed louder. Everyone saw the ending. You lived in denial's shadows. You chose not to see love's slow unraveling because it scared you. The universe sent signals, but you were too stubborn to decode them. You locked away your heart when healing was knocking. Love was fading quietly, but you refused to let it go. Everyone noticed the distance. You blamed the invisible walls. You ignored what everyone felt deep inside your silence. The truth was glaring, but you chose the darkness instead. You watched love die and chose not to mourn its passing. Your silence was the loudest betrayal love ever knew. Everyone saw the cracks in your soul. You painted them over. You ignored what was breaking because denial felt safer than truth. Love's dying flame flickered while you closed your eyes. The universe whispered warnings. You chose to dream instead. You shut the door on love's fragile light, leaving it to fade. Everyone heard the silence between us. It spoke more than words. You ignored the cracks until the whole world fell apart. Your heart's quiet breaking was a story only the universe told. You pretended not to see the love slipping through your fingers. Love was screaming inside you. You answered with deaf silence. Everyone noticed your fading soul, but you hid behind a mask. You chose blindness while the universe tried to open your eyes. The silence you crafted was a coffin for what could have been,